Hey, so we're going to go over some reasons why you may not be preaching behind your pastor's pulpit as often as you think or as often as you like, right? And if your pastor is preaching 52 weeks out of the year, I'm going to kind of go over some reasons that may be so, right? So one of the things is that you might not be preaching because you still need to be poured into. You still need to get the basic foundation of the gospel down, right? So therefore, when you do come up to that level of training and development, because you got to remember, not everybody's always ready for that level of training and development, but you are ready for the basic theology training, which means he has to keep pouring into you. So therefore, when you start getting into those levels of training and development, at least your doctrine is sound, right? Because it's a failure to have all the preaching ability, but then your doctrine is not sound. So a lot of times you can have the ability, but he's still pouring into you enough to where when he starts training you and putting you up for the people for training and development, they can say anything they want, but they won't say your doctrine is off. Are you follow me? So that's one of the reasons why, you may not be preaching. Another reason you could be preaching is because the pastor loves preaching so much that he does not realize that he's coveting the pulpit. His love for preaching doesn't leave room for anyone else to develop their gifts in that area. Are you following me? And so, you can have that situation where he's preaching 52 weeks a year because he just really loves to preach. But his love for it, he doesn't realize or he could realize that it's coveting the pulpit and is blocking him from allowing other people to go forth and develop in them because he just craves being behind there all the time. Are you follow me? So that's another reason why. Another reason could be, he doesn't believe that there's anybody in whose ministry that their calling is behind the pulpit. When he looks out in the congregation, he doesn't feel that there's anyone's calling for that. So, therefore, he's not going to train and develop anybody in that area because he doesn't believe that there is anybody in his congregation that their ministry is behind the pulpit, right? So that's another reason he could look and say, man, there's really nobody here like that, right? You might like me, but when he looks at you in the spirit, he's like, no, right? So that's another reason. One of the other things is he can have members who are called to the pulpit, who are called to develop their gifts behind the pulpit. You're called to preach, but his focus is developing you in other areas to let you know that preaching is not the main area. So you might have the preaching down behind the pulpit down, or he might know that that's going to be easy to develop you in that area, but he has to develop you in other ministries and train you in other ministries to let you know that's not the only source of ministry, depending on your calling. He'll put you in stuff like administration teams, put you on boards and committees. He'll have you doing announcements, the training. Listen, one of the things you have to understand, just because you can preach behind a pulpit does not mean that you're skilled enough to even do announcements. And so, he's developing you in other areas to let you know that the pulpit area is not the only area of ministry, especially if your calling is to go, beyond the pulpit or get into pastoralship. So he's developing you in many other areas of ministry so that you'll be complete in a lot of different areas other than the pulpit area. Are you following me? So, those are some reasons why you may not be preaching and that your pastor may be preaching so much, because he could be still developing people, and again, he can know that you have the ability to preach, but he's working on your theology. He's working on training you in other areas. Sometimes they are coveting the pulpit where they don't really see that they're blocking other people. And they will have to get with God about that, because you don't want to be blocked. You want your pastor to be sensitive enough to know who to develop and to train. But if he's preaching 52 weeks a year, it's definitely one of those reasons behind it. So, don't be discouraged. You just stay faithful, you stay prayerful, you stay doing other levels of ministry, you stay evangelizing, you stay praying, you keep yourself solid in God, and let God deal with the pastor. And then when you're ready, God will put you up. If the pastor is on some other stuff, then God will convict that man, or he has to deal with that between God. But his job is to train and develop you to be equipped for ministry. And so, just don't be trying to get to the pulpit all day. Just other sources of ministry that you can do. Amen. So those are just some of the reasons that you may not be preaching, or your pastor may be heavily preaching. Be blessed.